Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. And in this series we're going to be going over Saturn in the houses, okay? Saturn in the houses. And in this episode we're going to be talking about the 8th house, okay? Yes, the 8th house. So having Saturn in your 8th house. And before we get into that, I want to remind you guys to check out my music video. Yes, that music video that you saw in the beginning of this video is my music. Check it out. I'll have the link in the description box below, and I really appreciate that. So, getting back into Saturn in the 8th house. And before we even get into that, let's just dissect what Saturn is and what the 8th house is. Saturn in astrology is the planet of discipline, responsibility, restriction, structure, building, okay? Wherever Saturn is in your chart, it's gonna represent where you gotta work hard, where you're gonna feel boundaries, where you're gonna feel like you gotta go through obstacles, because that's Saturn. Saturn's like a coach. It's trying to build you. So it's not going to give it to you the easy way like some other planets like Venus and Jupiter. No, Saturn's going to be focusing on coaching you, building you, and putting restrictions and limitations so that you can overcome them. So it's a discipline, it's a responsibility. You got to think of it like a coach. And Saturn also rules your career, okay? Because you got to think about it. Our career is what we build. It's our discipline. In order to tap into your career, you got to work hard, you know, and Saturn rules this. It rules the big projects that you're here to do in life, not just your 9 to 5, but the big projects, the big work you're here to do, and that's our career. All right. So Saturn is very structured. It's a very productive planet. It feels like it's restrictive. It is going to give you challenges. It's definitely tough. But if you're willing to go through the obstacles, you'll be able to make it to the top. It's like, you know, climbing to the top of the mountain. You know, you got to work hard, but once you get there, you're at the top, and it's an amazing accomplishment and achievement. That's Saturn. And then when you get to the 8th house, I like to believe this is the house of where evil lives. Okay, now I'm not going to sit here and say it's evil, because the point of the 8th house is to transform. It's to go through these emotional obstacles. Okay, Saturn's more practical, but 8th house is more emotional. These emotional obstacles in order for you to transform. The 8th house deals with depression, okay, trauma, emotional trauma, okay, people absorbing your energy, using your energy, other people's resources, leeching energy. The 8th house deals with the shadow side of life, the dark, the occult, okay, hidden information, dark energies, okay. Anything evil you can think about is technically the 8th house. It's this very dark house. It's sex, things that we keep in the shadows, things that we don't put out there, okay, things of secret, okay. Also, like I said again, depression, emotional trauma, all of these things, these crazy things that we can't even explain in life, and these taboo things that go on in life. This is the 8th house. Very dark house. It's, in my opinion, the darkest house, because it deals with the darkest energies, the most oppressive energies. But it's meant for you to overcome, okay? And it's an emotional transformation. All right, so it's a very serious house, and it's where you're going to deal with basically the devil, you know. Your 8th house is the house of where the devil lives in. So that's like the biggest monster you got to deal with. Your fears, your biggest fears, all of that. So with that being said, the first thing I can say about Saturn in the 8th house is that there is major discipline when it comes to the dark side, the shadow side of life, depression, negative forces, taboo, okay, hidden energy, okay, sneaky energy. There is a lot of discipline that comes with this, okay, because one, Saturn is the planet of discipline. It's going to cause restrictions. It's going to coach you, push you, you know, put hurdles around you. And then you have the 8th house, which is an emotional discipline, dealing with your biggest fears, dealing with people trying to take your resources, trying to drain your energy. Okay, 8th house attracts a lot of people with power struggles, people taking power over you. So when you put Saturn here, you're getting this strong discipline with these dark energies, okay? Strong discipline with these dark energies. Saturn quickens the karma here, okay? 8th house is already deep, but with Saturn here, it quickens the karma. So anytime you tap into the shadows, you're gonna see automatic consequences, you know, when it comes to these dark energies. Okay, Saturn is confirming this energy because, like I said, the 8th house is already dark. Okay, the eighth house already deals with dark energies and power struggles, and then when you put Saturn here, it reinforces that energy and it really makes you feel it. So people with Saturn in 8th house, there's a major discipline when it comes to these dark energies. You can feel cursed. No one's cursed. I don't believe in saying that people's cursed. It's called karma. However, because Saturn's so harsh and 8th house is so harsh, it can feel like you're cursed because, again, like the discipline here, the consequences here are quick. It's like you get your karma quick. You know, for an example of this could be like, you know, someone can have sex and catch a disease, you know. Some people can do that and they don't get caught. With Saturn in the 8th house, that could be an immediate consequence, You know, you try to steal something or take something, you know, again, 8th house stuff, doing things in a hidden way, okay? Someone trying to take, you will automatically receive your consequences very quick with the Saturn here. Other people might get away with stuff. Saturn 8th house, I always say these people cannot get away with doing dark, shadow, sneaky stuff. You cannot get away. Taboo energy, tapping into things that are taboo. You know, things that people fear away from, okay? Whatever it could be, okay? It could be occult, it could be sex, it could be whatever, you know, what we consider taboo here. Some people can get into this and, you know, kind of sneak away. Saturn in the 8th house, nope. Anytime you tap into these dark energies, you will see the immediate consequences. So you have to be very, very disciplined here. Very disciplined, because Saturn is not letting you get away with any dark stuff, any sneaky stuff, any of those 8th house things. You know, get into some type of occult. You will see immediate consequences dealing with such power controlling dynamics, because, you know, with the occult, the reason why it's so negative is because the leader is dominating and controlling their people, okay? And there's power dynamics here in the 8th house. The 8th house deals with power struggles, you know, people taking your money, your resources, people taking power control over you. Saturn will confirm this energy. You will feel it strong because, again, the consequences here are immediate with Saturn in the 8th house. So you don't have that freedom of like tapping into the darkness and doing sneaky, taboo, wrong stuff that you know is wrong without getting those immediate consequences, all right? Definitely have to be careful with this because the discipline here is very, very strong. Okay, Saturn is a disciplinary planet. 8th house is a disciplinarian house. It's all about discipline. So you put them together and it's strong. So the karma here is strong. You really have to be responsible and you cannot play around with dark energies, taboo energies, people's resources, all of that sneaky stuff, okay? Even with sex, you have to be very careful with that because you're going to get immediate consequences for any of those things that aren't pure with good intention, okay? Because speaking about the sex with the 8th house, sex can be ruled by many different houses and energies. But with the 8th house, it deals with soul bonding. So people like to use this energy to control people, to trap people, to keep people trapped. The negative more aspects are shown in the 8th house when we talk about sex. So STDs, being emotionally trapped with someone, these energies are very immediate. The consequences of sex are very immediate with here too. Okay, and that deals with, you know, all stuff with the 8th house. So definitely take in mind, okay, take that seriously. The discipline here is strong. Another thing with Saturn in the 8th house is depression, okay? Depression is a huge thing with here in the 8th house. 8th house deals with your darkest emotions, your biggest fears. All of these things deal with the 8th house, okay? Why? Because the 8th house deals with your emotional transformation. So when we talk about shadow work, okay, You're talking about the 8th house, your darkest, deepest emotions, emotions that you want to stay away from. They're so taboo, they're so dark, they're your insecurities. 8th house unleashes that because 8th house is emotional. It's ruled by Scorpio, deals with your emotions. So depression's here. You have Saturn, this hard, strict, restricting planet, disciplined planet. Okay, the depression here is strong. Okay, it's a good chance of being depressed with this placement. And it's not for you to stay depressed, but it's for you to be more disciplined with your emotions. Okay, with Saturn in the 8th house, I have to say, you really need to be aware of your dark emotions. Okay, this is the responsibility Saturn's putting onto you. Okay, because Saturn wants you to take these dark energies seriously. That's why it's giving you all these restrictions. So when we talk about our dark feelings, depression is a big thing here. You know, with the 8th house already ruling depression, and then with Saturn putting all that pressure and that restriction, people a lot of times are very depressed with this, can be very depressed with this placement. Things could just be so negative, so restrictive. It's just so much dark, tense energy. So depression is a big placement here. And with Saturn 8th house people, I have to say, be aware of your dark feelings, okay? You have to take responsibility with them. Now, it can be hard with this placement because, like I said, it's so oppressive with both of these energies combined. However, because you're getting this discipline, you need to be disciplined with your emotions. And that means you need to be responsible and aware of them. The best way to be disciplined with your emotions is by being aware of them, understanding what they are, and being able to face them. That is Saturn. Saturn's not going to let you get away with these dark emotions. You're not going to be able to just think happy thoughts and get out with Saturn in 8th house. That energy is too weak. So Saturn's confirming this energy. So you're really going to have to deal with your depression. You're not going to be able to really escape from it. The energy is going to be strong on you. So the best suggestion I had to say with this Saturn 8th house is take responsibility of your dark emotions. Okay? Saturn's going to make it strong. So there is no point of trying to ignore it. You're not going to have that. Depending on how your chart is, maybe you can, certain aspects, definitely. But looking at this placement, it's going to be hard to ignore your depression. And when it's hard to ignore your depression, that is a blessing in disguise. Because then you get to deal with it, okay? But don't get into that negative toxicity. Because like I said, Saturn's very disciplined. So, it's not like Jupiter in the 8th house where you have that optimism, with all those dark energies. You have to have more of a discipline. You have more of a disciplined approach to them. So be aware and be responsible with these emotions, okay? Be aware of them, be responsible with them, understand them, and be in control of them. Saturn likes control, responsibility. Control these energies by being aware of them and bringing them out and dealing with them head on. That's how you release them. And with Saturn again being here, it's going to be hard to ignore them. So you might as well dive deep into your depression and heal that. Okay. Also with this planet is major power struggles. Major power struggles. 8th house already deals with power struggles because this is dealing with people trying to absorb or drain your energy or take your energy, or you trying to do that with someone. Okay, and 8th house is very much about other people's resources. Okay, that's why it's a very dark energy, because other people's resources, that's like stealing people's stuff. That's like relying on other people's, using people. That's all that dark energy. So and kind of codependent energy. So when you have Saturn here, okay, the power struggles, people wanting to control you. Saturn's already about control and discipline. You're going to attract people who want to take power over you. Blatantly, like straight up, a lot of people are going to want to control you. It could be the government, it could be your boss, it could be your parents, it could be your friends, your relationships. Okay, 8th house deals with those deep relationships, after marriage, when you really like tie the knot on a spiritual, soulful level. There could be major power struggles, people wanting to control you, use you, all that type of stuff. And with Saturn confirming that energy of control. But the whole purpose of this is for you, Saturn 8th house person, is for you to take control and power back. Saturn 8th house, usually these people, especially once they get more mature with their energy, because Saturn is a very mature energy, you don't really master Saturn until you get older, usually, unless you're like a very Saturnian person. But usually you start mastering it, once you get into your later 20s and you start getting better at this energy. But Saturn the 8th house people, they are power people. Very power oriented, and it's because they dealt with so many people controlling them and power struggles with them. It angers them and they want to take the power back, okay? And Saturn is all about power. I already told you, Saturn will control and put all these restrictions on you simply for you to overcome them. So once you overcome them, it builds you, it makes you stronger. That's all Saturn's doing. People think Saturn's just going to control you. No, Saturn controls you so that you can learn how to break through the obstacles and take back your power. And 8th house is about taking back your power. That's why people are always mostly draining you. It's to help build your boundaries and your self-worth and your power. So you put Saturn and 8th house together, it's a power struggle type of energy, but people with this tend to become powerful people later in life. Like, I'm talking about real bosses. People with this energy become real bosses. Saturn 8th house people are meant to be in power positions. And I'm talking about in any type of way, like whether it be like your job or your career or, your family, your life, whatever it is. You're supposed to mature and take power. You're supposed to be in boss positions. And people with Saturn 8th house, they end up being that way. Okay, they've dealt with so many power struggles. They learn how to take back their power, especially with Saturn. Saturn really is about responsibility. It's really practical. It's strong. It's resilient. These people are powerful people. They're usually bosses. Saturn 8th house people, like, you're a boss, straight up. Like, Saturn's going to train you to be a boss. You've dealt with so many negative energies, so many trifling people trying to control you. You become master of control. So this is a placement that grooms you to be a boss. Saturn 8th house grooms you to be a boss. It is not a position where you're going to be able to keep taking people's direction and control. Because eventually you just get too upset and you want your power back. And Saturn is all about structure, okay? And control. So that energy and that attitude, that's the energy you come in with the 8th house. So these people going against you, taking your power, whoever it is, you want that power back. So these are power, they can be power hungry people. It could go to the negative side and they could be very power hungry people. But at the end of the day, Saturn 8th house really grooms people to be very powerful boss type of people. Also, Saturn the 8th house, there is strong resilience in this placement, okay? You've dealt with so many negative energies, okay? 8th house is deep, okay? 8th house can get into, abuse, it can get very dark here. People abusing you, all these types of stuff. So with Saturn here giving you that resilience, because Saturn's all about practice, jump through the hurdles. It's coaching you. The resilience that you gain, the strength that you gain when it comes to dealing with dark energies is so powerful here. These people are super duper resilient. There's so many things that these people have gone through that they overcome. They have such a strong resilience. Their responsibility when it comes to dark energies is so good here. I really feel like Saturn is a great placement to be in the 8th house because it gives you that authority and that responsibility and that seriousness, okay? But the resilience you guys have for dark energies, you guys can handle a lot. Saturn 8th house people can handle a lot because they've been through a lot. And they had that Saturn approach where they take on the obstacle and they jump through the hurdle. No matter how many times they fall, they get back up again. It's that resilience. They can handle these dark energies. So again, this is a very powerful placement. I hate to keep comparing it to the Jupiter in the 8th house, but it's interesting because Jupiter 8th house gives you that power to, overcome your obstacles too, but in a very lucky, optimistic way. Saturn, it's like a strong resilience. Like you can handle anything. Like I think of these people energetically like the Hulk, okay? Because they're just so strong. They've been through so much. You got to think of all the things that these people been through and how they had to keep going. So Saturn gives you that resilience for dark energies, for trauma. You can handle a lot and it makes you very strong. But with Saturn here in the 8th house, you can develop a career when it comes to the taboo stuff, a career in sex education, a career in sexual abuse, a career in the hidden knowledge, occult. Like, you can really have like a career, build a career when it comes to these dark topics in the 8th house, all right? One thing I can definitely say, like I said, Saturn 8th house people are boss people, so whatever career you're in, you're probably going to definitely run it. You're definitely going to run it, okay? Because you're already a boss. But you definitely can have a career in the fields of taboo, okay? Dealing with sex, dealing with trauma, dealing with abuse. You can work in fields or in environments or in businesses that deal with dark energies, okay? Whether it be prison or, you know, things dealing with like just dark, you know, being a detective, you know, dealing with murders and all that type of dark stuff. You can have a career in this, okay? Because Saturn's very practical. It loves to take these obstacles and turn it into something you can profit off of, something that could be your career, something you could make money. It's very structured. So a lot of these people can tap into very dark careers that can, you know, that deal with the 8th house subjects and topics. So that's definitely a very interesting thing to look at too. But whichever career you tap into, you're definitely going to be a boss. The thing I can say with Saturn 8th house is, I typically, like, people when they explain this house, it's like, oh my god, the death of doom, the death of doom, oh my god, you're done, this is the worst. But for me, yes, it's very dark and challenging. I will never like try to downplay that, but this is a great placement for Saturn, in my opinion, because Saturn likes the 8th house, okay? Because Saturn deals with a lot of the things that 8th house deals with. This is about discipline. Now, 8th house is more emotional. Saturn is practical, but it's still discipline. And Saturn, again, it's strong, it's responsible. When you're dealing with the 8th house and 8th house energies, you need discipline. You need to be responsible. When you tap into the 8th house, you need to be responsible. It is not a house to play around with. Okay? A lot of the lighter energies like Venus, Jupiter, they could get caught up here. Okay? Being so undisciplined. You need to be responsible. That's why Saturn, in my opinion, does so well in the 8th house, because Saturn is responsible. Saturn is what you need in order to really survive the 8th house. Saturn will give you that discipline, that resilience, that responsibility. And that's what you need to survive the 8th house. The 8th house deals with discipline, emotional discipline, dealing with trauma, dark energies, and Saturn can handle darkness. Saturn can handle responsibility. So I honestly love to say, Saturn 8th house people, you guys can handle this. You guys, to me, in my opinion, you guys handle the 8th house the best. I would even sometimes say even more than Pluto, okay? Because Pluto acts like the 8th house, so sometimes it could be a blind spot. But Saturn, that responsibility, that practicality, I feel like it's a blessing to have this placement, because you guys have the responsibility to truly handle the 8th house. You guys have the discipline. You guys have the resilience and the strength to overcome these obstacles, these emotional traumas, all right? You guys are the ones who are brave enough, responsible enough, disciplined enough to handle these dark energies. And it's a great placement. Saturn can really flourish in this placement. Yes, it's dark and negative, but that is the 8th house. Dark and negative is not necessarily bad. It's just dealing with the darker energies. And when you're dealing with darker energies, what better planet to have than Saturn? A responsible, structured planet. Okay, so yes, that is Saturn in the 8th house. I hope you guys enjoyed. That is a blessing, in my opinion, in disguise, because it is dark and challenging. But you guys are very powerful people, very disciplined, okay? Very, like I said, I think of like the Hulk, or I think of like someone's made of steel because of the discipline and the resilience that you have. And yes, this is challenging. I am not going to sit here and downplay. It is challenging, but I'm telling you, when you guys learn these lessons, you guys become the most responsible, resilient people. Like, you guys can really handle the 8th house better than anyone, in my opinion. So that's Saturn in the 8th house. I hope you guys enjoyed that. And if you did, book a reading with me. I do astro readings as well as tarot. All you gotta do is email me and we can go forward with that. And also check out my music videos. All of those links will be in the description box below. And I'll check you guys out on the next video.
I walk into a realm so cold. Big doors, big bars, tight locks, everything closed. Your tools ain't cut for the mold. Chin up, back straight, stand up, everything bold. You stay cause you're trying to get in. Fashion, movements, currents, routines and trends.